We know Quicksilver as the brother of the Scarlet Witch, but is that all he has to offer? Being Marvel's god of speed comes with a lot of side effects and specialization of the powers he has. Quicksilver is a speedster, but how does his body adapt to this speed? Is physical speed the only thing that he's capable of achieving? Are there any other feats that are achievable by Quicksilver owing to his powers of super speed? These are some of the questions that we will be tackling in this video. Quicksilver Anatomy Explored. Now, before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is Quicksilver? Pietro Maximoff, better known as Quicksilver, is the twin brother of the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff. Sadly, both of them were kidnapped by the High Evolutionary from Serbia and were kept at Wundagore Mountain in Transia, where they were experimented on for several years. When the High Evolutionary was not happy with the results, he left them in the care of Django and Maria Maximoff. In the earlier comics, it was implied that Natalia Maximoff was the mother of the twins who perished while trying to protect the children from High Evolutionary, but in the later comics we learned that Wanda and Quicksilver were twins of Maria and Django Maximoff. Django did his best to care for the twins, even going as far as to steal food to feed the two young children. However, when he was caught, an angry mob decided to attack the Romani camp where they were living at the time. Pietro's super speed allowed him to escape this angry mob with his sister, but the separation of the twins and their only close family was so traumatic that the horrors of the event rendered them with no recollection of that fateful day. After escaping from the angry mob, the twins decided to travel all across Europe. From a very young age, both Wanda and Pietro showed signs of their superpower. This led people in Europe to think that Wanda was a witch, which put her life in jeopardy. While the angry mob was about to close in on the twins, they were saved by Magneto, who protected them, assuming they were simply fellow mutants like he was. How does Quicksilver achieve his superhuman speed? Pietro has mentioned that being the fastest is about something other than who can go around the Earth the fastest. It's the way you think, you see and breathe. This is because Pietro's body is made for speed. His body physiology has adapted to speed with how it functions. Unlike us, his body metabolizes and uses 95% of the food that Pietro ingests, while our body burns only 25% of the food we intake. With his high metabolism, Pietro has a higher amount of energy in his body, which allows him to run for a longer period of time. But that's not all. Pietro's cardiovascular system and respiratory system are much more well enhanced than our body. His respiratory system acts as the main source via which he gets rid of the metabolic waste product that comes from movement. This allows his muscles to not get fatigued from the deposition of lactic acid. His joints are also much more well lubricated, which allows for more smooth joint movement. His skeletal muscles work overtime, and the tendons and ligaments that he has are much more flexible than what we have. This prevents his ligaments and tendons from taking damage. His bones are rich in something other than calcium, which makes bones much stronger because when he is moving, the dynamic shock he has to face is far greater than the one humans experience. His bones have adapted that way to withstand that dynamic shock. On top of that, Quicksilver needs to have a better vision than we do owing to how fast he moves. In order for us to have proper vision, our eyes need to maintain certain wetness. In the case of Quicksilver, this lachrymose is far thicker. His lachrymose is far thicker than ours. This thickness of the lachrymose prevents his eyes from drying when he is moving at high speed by preventing rapid evaporation. He has the ability to vibrate his or others' molecular structure. As Quicksilver moves super quickly, one of his abilities that go hand in hand with his speed is allowing his atoms to vibrate. Pietro can control the speed at which his molecules might be vibrating. This control over molecular vibration is something that he can use on others as well. If he touches a building and vibrates the molecules of the building at high speed, the building will topple. Similarly, if he does that to an enemy, he can render them unbalanced. We get to see this in X Factor, The Quick and the Dead, where Pietro uses this ability to escape the cell he woke up in. This ability to control his vibration at atomic and submolecular levels allows Pietro to travel through solid objects by controlling the atoms of the solid object in his path. Quicksilver doesn't need a compass to navigate. High-speed traveling requires a proper navigation system. If there's no proper navigation system, the speedster may not be able to stop or change course at the right time, which can cause gruesome accidents or even deaths, as we've seen in the series The Boys. When it comes to Pietro, he doesn't have that problem. As Pietro, he is able to control the subatomic vibration of his body. He is also able to sense the vibrations happening around him. Using these vibrations, Pietro is able to figure out the magnetic north at all times on instinct, making him his own compass. This allows Pietro to know when to change course and direction that he's moving in, as navigation using landmarks is not possible when moving at such high speeds. How fast is Quicksilver? From the get-go, Quicksilver was able to run 175 miles per hour. As we've discussed, his high metabolism allowed his body to store up a huge amount of energy, and originally, before Isotope E, Pietro was able to run for 4 hours at this speed before he had to slow down to replenish the energy reserve that was depleted. But when Quicksilver was introduced to Isotope E, his speed increased significantly. He was easily able to reach up to speeds of Mach 4 and Mach 5. For reference, Mach 4 speed is 3,080 miles per hour and Mach 5 speed is 3,691 miles per hour. He has even reached Mach 10 speed. Using his acceleration, Quicksilver has done a lot of things, including running on water and even going around the Earth in 92 seconds. The thrusts of his legs even have the ability to produce enough air current that Pietro can use to fly short distances. Pietro's huge speed is also aided by his ability not to be affected by frictional force. Quicksilver's speed can damage the ecosystem of Earth. In the 21st century, one of the biggest concerns that we have is about the deteriorating state of our ecosystem. While superheroes do not exist in real life, the damage that is caused to our ecosystem is very much real. But in the hypothetical situation, if superheroes existed in our world, they would cause a huge amount of damage to our ecosystem. This particular aspect was explored in Avengers Millennium. We know that Pietro is able to circumnavigate the globe in 92 seconds. That means he has to often traverse over sea. We've seen in various scenes where Pietro watches the news in Europe that in a few seconds, he shows up in North America. This feat of his has a drastic effect on the ecosystem, especially the marine ecosystem. Every step he takes on the ocean causes shock waves whose radius is about 50 miles. This energy that is produced by our superhero, who weighs a solid 80 kilograms, moving at 1500 meters per second, is quite destructive. For example, if there is a coral reef that falls in his way, that would be completely damaged in a moment. But Pietro is sadly unaware of the damage he is causing because in order to be a speedster, he has to be very focused. This focus makes him blissfully unaware of everything around him. He also has super speed thinking ability. Thinking fast is the source of acting fast. When we see Quicksilver in action, we notice that he has a super fast reflex. His reflex is a swift enough one that he can dodge machine gun fires with ease. This reflex is because of his ability to think at superhuman speed. His ability to perceive everything that is happening around him is far superior to ours. This is a given trait because if he's unable to think fast, he will continue to get into accidents while running around. But Pietro's ability to think fast is way higher than anyone else. When we see Pietro move, he is always observing his surroundings, calculating every outcome that can happen and how he can get out of bad situations. Pietro can move in a picosecond without concussion, so around him the whole world has slowed down significantly. This allows him enough time to think everything clearly, while for the viewer, he seems to be taking his decisions extremely quickly. Quicksilver can create copies of himself. In the Son of M storyline, Quicksilver was in a terrible state. In the previous storyline of House of M, Wanda had depowered 98% of the mutant population in retaliation against Magneto. To regain his power, Pietro exposed himself to a naturally occurring mutagen named Terrigen Mist and inserted Terrigen crystals into his body. This allowed his powers to increase manifold. One of the abilities that came into existence owing to this manifold manifestation of his powers is Pietro's ability to jump through time. Thanks to the Terrigen Mist, his speed increased a lot. Previously, he was able to only go at speeds of up to Mach 5, but now he was able to reach up to Mach 10. This speed allowed him to essentially quickly jump into the future and then come back to the present, creating two copies of himself in that same time. This is because he is able to displace time. The ability to displace time and create copies of himself whenever he wanted came very handy for Pietro during combat. These time displacement copies of himself are what Pietro used to win against Magneto by overwhelming him with 3 versions of himself. Is Quicksilver really a mutant like Magneto? The source of Quicksilver's power has been quite the source of controversy over the years. When the Maximoff siblings were first introduced, it was very clear that the twins were mutants. At one point, their parentage was brought into question by our mutant supremacist, Magneto, the father of the twins. In that particular storyline, it's fair to assume that both of them were mutants like their father, but as we know, the Marvel Universe prefers their superheroes to be genetically engineered, and that is the route that they took in the origin story that was later explored. In the 4th issue of Uncanny Avengers, we get to see the new origin story of the Maximoff twins, where it clearly stated that they were humans who went through terrible genetic experimentation at the hands of High Evolutionary. This storyline negates the whole mutant storyline that was originally introduced. Quicksilver's inhuman love creates inhuman daughter. Inhumans were the first race of superhumans who were formed by Kree with the help of Terrigen Mist. These humans were extremely strong and powerful owing to the Terrigenesis that they had gone through. While being a busy Avenger, Quicksilver got hurt at the hands of a Sentinel and was mortally wounded. While in this state, he was found by Crystal. Crystal was one of the Inhumans, almost a royal in their hierarchy system. She took Pietro to Atalan to heal himself and help recover his strength. As the recovery process took months, they spent an ample amount of time together and love blossomed between these 2 unlikely characters. However, their love was tested often. Pietro, from the start, proved to be a neglectful husband. This was understandably hurtful to Crystal. While they had their baby, Luna, their relationship did not improve. When Maximus the Mad entered the picture, he took control of Pietro. By taking over Pietro, he turned Pietro against the humans. During this time, his daughter Luna had gone through Terrigenesis. By going through this, she had gained the ability to understand when someone is lying or not. Watching her father constantly lie to her mother and herself ruined whatever relationship Luna and Pietro had. Even after Maximus the Mad gave up the control he had over Pietro, the relationship between him and Crystal was ruined. They later ended up annulling their marriage and his relationship with Luna was in shambles. Is he immortal? Despite his super speed, Quicksilver was never able to outrun his death, neither in the cinematic universe nor in the comic book. In the cinematic universe, Avengers Age of Ultron, we get to see the adventures of the Maximoff twins. As they saw their parents being killed by a weapon marked as Stark, the twins decided to kill the Avengers by joining hands with Ultron. But that was until they figured out that Ultron was planning on committing genocide using a piece of Sokovia and dropping it from an extreme height. The shock waves produced from this would be enough to cause a global extinction. This levitation was done with the help of a machine, and the Maximoffs were responsible for the machine while the Avengers were focused on evacuation. During this, Pietro noticed Ultron targeting Hawkeye, who was helping a child evacuate. To save them, Pietro stands in the way of the bullet. The anguish of losing him led to Wanda's telekinetic power increasing 7-fold, which resulted in the death of the majority of Ultron's army. A lot of fans were not happy with Pietro's sacrifice in the cinematic universe because, in their eyes, his sacrifice was not near at all. When it comes to the comic book world, in the Ultimate storyline, we see Pietro dying again, but in this case, it was not at the hand of Ultron, but in the hand of a female version of Kang. In this storyline, Quicksilver is helping Richard Reed because he thinks Richard will allow him to undo the mistakes he has made before, and while helping the Fantastic Four, he runs the research numerical that Reed is working on, which leads him to realize the whole project that Reed, Kang, and he were involved in would result in the genocide of mutants, wiping out mankind. While Quicksilver and Johnny Storm are out to extract one of the Infinity Stones, Pietro confronts Kang, who then kills him using the powers of the Infinity Stone that he was sent to extract. While dying, Pietro's only wish is to reunite with Wanda again, which tugs at the reader's heartstrings. Marvelous verdict. With arrogance being a side effect of his power, Quicksilver is a very colourful character with a personality that has many deep layers. In this video, we try to delve deep into what makes Quicksilver the way he is, and with the help of this video, we hope we were able to give you a deeper insight into the powers of this superhero and what makes him function the way he does. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't done so already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.